Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Tom Shyka. I'm with NERACOOS, the Northeastern Regional Association of Coastal Ocean Observing Systems. Presenting on behalf of Katie Bland, who couldn't be with us today. Katie co-led a lot of this work with our partners at the Gulf of Maine Lobster Foundation. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview and some highlights from a workshop that we hosted earlier this year, which was focused on connecting fishermen with data products and different data sources and data tools that are available. So this project was, the workshop, I'm sorry, was part of a larger project that was funded by the Sea Grant American Lobster Initiative. The larger project, I have to read this, the title was Providing the Lobster Industry New Gear Technology in Response to Regulatory and Environmental Changes. Again, this project was led by the Gulf of Maine Lobster Foundation, and you can see all the partners that were involved in this larger project. The overall focus of the larger project, again, was connecting fishermen to various technologies and tools like sensors, the EMOLT sensors, and data products that are out there that can help them collect data or use the data that's being collected for their work. And there were kind of 5 major areas in this project. One had to do with filling some data gaps, and I'll talk a little bit about that, a data gap down east with getting more EMOLT systems on vessels in that area. Also, like Linus talked about, getting the data that's collected by EMOLT assimilated into specifically the 2 NECOFs. So getting that EMOLT data to the modeler so they can assimilate into the model and hopefully improve the model. There's also some habitat suitability modeling that was supported by this larger project, as well as getting some of the EMOLT data available through some of the NERACOOS products, and also a lot of engagement throughout all of this. But specifically, again, I'm going to talk about this workshop that we held. And so, again, last April, we held this Ocean Data Visualization Tool workshop in Ellsworth, Maine. Again, the focus was to connect with fishermen, inform them about all the data that's being collected, including some of the data they're collecting, and inform them about this EMOLT program, and actually help hopefully recruit some of them to be participants in the EMOLT program, especially down east. And also to just really spend some time with the fishermen talking about how they use data, how they use the tools that we have available, just trying to understand their process of work and how they're making decisions, and hopefully how we can improve the tools or create new tools like Linus just showed that will give them access to data that's going to help them with their work. So there's a lot of great discussion in this workshop. You've heard about EMOLT, but I'm going to put up this graphic just for those of you who are not familiar with it. So again, EMOLT program is at least 25 years old, started by Jim Manning from the Northeast Fisheries Science Center. Jim was going up and down the coast and handing out sensors to fishermen, and they'd put them on the trap, and hopefully 6 or 12 months later, they'd send the sensor back in, and Jim would download the data. But there's this great, long history of data from EMOLT, bottom temperature data. And at NERACOOS, around the same time, we had just deployed a lot of the new oceanographic buoys that are collecting water temperature data, but they do not collect bottom temperature data because it's a chain down by the mooring system. So EMOLT has been and still is really filling in those gaps and collecting that bottom temperature data that's really necessary for all the reasons that Linus talked about. But just here's the kind of latest evolution of EMOLT is now they have these sensors that measure temperature, depth, temperature profiles, and also dissolved oxygen that can go on fixed gear and mobile gear. So when these sensors come up out of the water now, the data is transmitted to a computer on the vessel, which is then transmitted in, so you can get a summary of that data in near real time. So it can go into these models, can be assimilated into the models to help improve forecasts. It's been used to help inform stock assessments, and the fishermen, importantly, have that computer on their vessel, so they can see the data while they're out there and make decisions with the data that's coming in. let's see, where are we here? Okay, so the focus of our workshop was for Down East Maine. One of the major drivers for this was the lack of some of the data collection in Down East Maine. The image there at the map to the right, the blue dots are EMOLT real-time data collection. That's where these EMOLT real-time data systems have collected data. And the red dots are where EMOLT non-real-time data has been collected. So there was, there's definitely some non-real-time, but there's really a gap up there with this real-time data. So part of this workshop was really to inform fishermen about this capability and recruit some of them into the program. As well, you can see in this next map over, these are oceanographic buoys. Some of them are Nearcoos buoys operated by the University of Maine. Some of them are NDBC buoys. So the nearest oceanographic buoy down east is this NDBC buoy, which is only measuring surface conditions, and sometimes it's not operating all the time. And then you have buoy I, which is one of the Nearcoos buoys. It does have sensors deep into the water column, but there's just a really lack of subsurface measurements here. So again, a reason why we were focused on that region. Let's see, here's a map that shows where the workshop participants were from. So good representation from down east Maine, and then some from mid-coast and southern Maine. One fisherman came up from New Hampshire. You can see most of the fishermen fish lobster only, but there were a couple that worked in other fisheries. What did I do? Oh, there we go. So at the workshop, like I said, we spent a lot of time sitting down, talking about, looking at, working with some of these various tools. And so there were kind of two tools that were really focused on the data that an individual fisherman collects and has access to on the water and afterwards. One of them was this Fishing Ocean Data Portal, which is operated by Ocean Data Network, a company. And this is a portal where fishermen can go in, log in and see their specific data and presentations of their data. So that was one of the tools. Also, you can see the EMOLT Deck Data Hub. So this is the computer on the fishing vessel where the fishermen can see the data as it's coming up. So again, really looking at, talking about, understanding how they use, what improvements are needed for these tools. Additionally, we talked about and discussed two Nearcoos products. So one is the Nearcoos Mariner's Dashboard. This is our product that delivers the real-time data from these oceanographic buoys that are out there and other sensors that are out there. This tool is really, this is focused on mariners who are on the water every day and making decisions about where they should go, when they should go, is it safe to be out there. And the other tool that we talked about too is our ocean climate tool. So many of the buoys from Nearcoos have been out there for over 20 years. So we've been able to develop these climatologies. So you can see what the average conditions are for different parameters for all the buoy locations. And then you can plot those average conditions and then overlay that with the most recent conditions. So, and this was a request we had from some fishermen or fisheries managers so they could see, right now, are we seeing conditions that are warmer than average, kind of average, or below average? And so we spent some time with these tools as well too. Here we go. Okay, so some very high level takeaways. So again, a lot of great discussions. There was a lot of enthusiasm amongst the fishermen for, some of them are already EMOLT participants, but for upgrading to the real-time EMOLT. And then we had some fishermen sign up to become EMOLT participants. And hopefully that's why, Linus, there's that increase in EMOLT data. Maybe that was, hopefully this was part of it. So a lot of interest there, a lot of interest in the fishermen kind of sharing trusted data amongst themselves. Also, we had a lot of interest or maybe even requirements or demands that we keep these buoys going with the oceanographic data, the winds and waves just really important to their day-to-day decision-making, whether they're going to go out and on their water, when they're on their water, you know, where they're going to go. There was also, we heard, obviously, a lot of down east participants, kind of this interest in filling in these data gaps down east. There's not really good sources once they get on the water of real-time waves, of real-time winds, and other parameters as well. So they were definitely requesting that we consider, you know, expanding observations down east. Also expanding, you know, different variables, and heard from several people about interest in dissolved oxygen. Also, we heard a lot of interest from the fishermen about learning more about the kind of oceanographic ecological processes that are, you know, resulting in this change. Some things that specifically came up that we heard about earlier today from Damien and others, you know, the time scales and the influence of the different Gulf of Maine source waters and how that's affecting the ecosystem, as well on the other end, interest about nutrients and pollutants that may be coming down from rivers and affecting the coastal region. So kind of our next steps, all of the teams that were there, the Ocean Data Networks, EMALT, NERACOOS, we've all been working on incorporating kind of tool-specific feedback into the various tools. And it's great to see Linus's a new tool that's out there as well too, that's, you know, aggregating this data and providing, you know, access to, you know, additional data. Katie's working on the workshop report, so we'll have more specifics and details about, you know, everything we heard in the workshop. And then, as we were hoping to do, we, you know, recruiting some more fishermen to be EMALT participants. So helping to grow EMALT. So I know Aaron and George and all the whole, you know, EMALT team are working on getting these systems installed with fishermen down east. Let's do this. So here's a picture of the whole crew. So yeah, we're really grateful to everybody that participated. Yeah, really, like I said, we spent a lot of time, built in a lot of time for discussion. So just really hearing about, from the fishermen about how they do their work, what data they use, what additional data they need, how we can improve the products for them. And I'm assuming these PowerPoints are going to be shared, so we did include just some additional data resources in case you weren't. Hopefully most of you are aware of these, but there's the Mariner's dashboard on there. You heard about ERDAP. There's the NERACOOS ERDAP where you can download, get access to all of the buoy data. I think Linus had this too. There's an EMALT ERDAP with the anonymized EMALT data, which you can access. I also put in some links to the output from the Northeast Coastal Forecast System. So that's the operational forecast system that we support that's run out of UMass Dartmouth. So every day there's a 5-day forecast that's produced. And as Linus was showing and somebody asked, yeah, it's always great to see how the models are doing compared to other models and observations. I know at one time Jim Manning had a little site where you could actually see the latest EMALT data, the NECOF's output, Doppio. I don't know if that's still up, but you could do that comparison. But I think that's really helpful. And there's also, I think I've seen it presented and used in some of the other presentations. There's a NECOF's hindcast, so a 40-year hindcast that NECOF's produced, and that group is trying to update that hindcast. They're not doing it well. They're trying to do every year, but they're probably up to, I think, 2019 now. You can access to those links. So with that, yeah, I'll say thank you and happy to take any questions.
Hi, Tom. I'm curious how fishermen talked about using the data, right? Like, it's one thing, well, let's put it this way. I know they're doing a service to us. We published a paper comparing NECOFs to EMALT, and it's just a really useful observational data set. But what do they get out of it on their side? Do they actually use that information, say, oh, I'm not going to fish over here, I'm going to fish over here, or I know when to put out my traps because it reached, 10 degrees C, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can tell you in the workshop, I was more sitting with the near cruise product, the Mariner's dashboard. So, and obviously that's something the fishermen say they use every day, sometimes multiple times a day, but it's more, should I go out? What it's going to be like when I go out? Or, do I need to bring traps in? So that's a more of a kind of go, no-go, safe navigation. I haven't seen the results from kind of what George and they talked about with the EMOLT data, but I have heard, talking to fishermen, that some of them have their own mental models of, I'm remembering one where it's the relationship between the surface water and the bottom temperature, and they make decisions, once on that kind of the difference, whether they think the lobsters are going to be moving and catchable. So that would, determine where they're going to put their gear. Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I talked to Bruce Furland, who is a longtime EMOLT participant, excited to upgrade, he said, to the real-time system, and he said he thought he might use that to decide where, well, that and the model output as well, the forecast, where he might locate his traps. So, yeah, those are a couple examples there.